Hi, it's Mary Alice Curran, and I am so excited about this particular webinar series happening throughout January. Digital sportsmanship happens to be like one of those topics. I mean, I know we are in the space with digital citizenship and how to use technology for good, but all of those layers and those elements for digital citizenship, they apply perfectly for digital sportsmanship. So I'm just the host tonight, and I really am hoping that if you are joining us live or if you're going to join us later on, please just join in the comments. Let us know, like, what are the traits? What are those traits, those words that you think about when you think about sportsmanship? So whether that's from a player's point of view, from a coach's point of view, parents and fans and caregivers and grandparents, like, what does it mean? Like, what are those things that we're hoping from? And I can tell you right now, we got a live joining in from Mexico. We've got some comments from New York, Michael Drezick. I know that digital sportsmanship to you, I know you are right now, you are a coach in many things, but also for esports. So I'm excited about adding that additional layer. So as you join in, please share, what does sportsmanship mean to you? And I feel like that will be, here we go. Michael Drezick, look at you on the ball. Mutual respect, even when competition heats up. Amen to that. So I love this topic, but what I love even more is the fact that I get to host this webinar series in partnership with a former middle school student, Stephen Marcus. So if I go back in time, this is back to Wilbraham and Munson Academy. I was like head of middle school. It was my first year in that position. And I meet grade 6 student Stephen Marcus. And now, all these years later, we get to partner on this incredible opportunity to have these conversations to help student athletes, to help teams, to help school communities use tech for good. So I'm going to pull up Steve Marcus.
Dr. Curran,
And I'm so happy that you're here.
how are you?
And I'm happy that we're doing this. And I would love, this is like a WMA, a Wilbraham and Munson kind of reunion as well, because we have a panel joining us in a little bit. But tell us about, you have had since the 6th grade, you don't have to go all the way back, but you have had an incredible what you've done, your journey from graduating from Wilbraham and Munson off to Bonaventure, all of your both, undergrad, you started that grad, you've done everything. Share like how you got this started with the prep connection.
Yeah, I think, well, for obviously, first off, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, and it's great to obviously reconnect on this platform. But yeah, our time started at Wilbraham Munson. I was fortunate enough to go in in the 6th grade, and kind of stay at Wilbraham all throughout my entire prep school career. Played 3 sports in high school, baseball, basketball, and water polo. And Wilbraham Munson really changed my life. It shaped me to be the person that I am today. I was fortunate enough to live on campus my junior, senior year. My junior year roommate was from China. My senior year roommate was from Benin, West Africa. So I kind of was immersed into their cultures at 16, 17, 18 years old. Went to St. Bonaventure University, where I worked with the men's basketball program under Coach Mark Schmidt. I kind of knew when I was at Wilbraham that I wanted to be a coach. Had opportunities to play at the Division III level, and said, if I want to coach, the best thing for me is to go work at the Division I level, work at the highest level with the best coaches and athletes in the country. And was fortunate enough to do that at St. Bonaventure under Coach Schmidt. Had a heck of a 4 years on campus there. Went to an NCAA tournament in 2012. And during my summers would come home and would coach AAU travel basketball. And that's kind of how I really got into the quote unquote game of hoops. I worked with I think we had like 30 kids over my 4 years at the Division I level, which was awesome to see. and got connected through my time with my AAU program with a family who worked with the Boston Celtics, and that's kind of how my first opportunity in pro basketball came to be. Graduated from Bonaventure in 2014 and went and spent 2 seasons with the Boston Celtics in their front office as the assistant director of basketball operations. I would spend half my years in Boston, the other half of the season up in Portland, Maine, working with their D-League team, the Maine Red Claws. Spent 2 seasons there, loved it, but wanted to get back into the college game. Was down at North Carolina State with Coach Mark Gottfried for a season. Unfortunately, we didn't win enough games, and I got the harsh reality of college basketball, and our staff got let go. Spent a little bit of time with Adidas, and then all the way up, migrated up to St. John's, Newfoundland in Canada, where I spent 3 seasons with the St. John's Edge of the National Basketball League of Canada, up until the pandemic kind of shut down our world and shut down my basketball career. And I've shifted in a new career now and doing this thing with the Prep Connection. So I know it was a little bit long-winded, but that's kind of the career trajectory that I was on.
Okay, I just love all of it, and I know that just here how to connect with you. Am I missing anything on we've got the website for prep-connection.com, on Twitter or X, I guess we call it now, the Prep Connect. And so it would be great if you are joining us live or you're going to watch this after practice tonight or at some other time to connect with the Prep Connect, and then on Instagram, the Prep Connection. So,
absolutely. And the Prep Connection, if I can, just really quick, how it came to be, throughout the pandemic, I kind of figured if I'm not going to be continuing to work in basketball, how can I still be around basketball and what's important to me? And my dad ran a successful business for 25 years, and I always leaned on him for advice of what to do. And he kept saying, find your passion and make that your business. And for me, it was the passion is athletics. The other passion is prep school. And what can I do to combine those? So for us, it's creating this consulting firm to help families find the right prep school fit. And that's a key word these days, is fit, not just athletically, but also academically and culturally and things like that. So that's where the whole idea of the Prep Connection came from. And we're off and running here now, and it's been a great, 6 or 8 months since we launched.
I think this is wonderful, and I'm so happy that we get to do this. So this is, for our first one. We've got 3 happening in January, and so today we're talking about, it's Happy New Year, new resolutions, and some new digital habits, right? Like I felt like that was a great way to kick off. You don't have to have a New Year's necessary resolution, or some people are doing words like, what's your one word?
Mm-hmm.
There are those in and out lists as well, but I mean, we just really want to help student athletes and coaches and teams and school communities make some better choices. And so when I kicked this off, I was asking, what are those traits? Like, what are those traits that you're always looking for, especially as a coach, Stephen? Like, what are those traits that you're looking for? And how do we apply those traits, just not on and off a court or a field, but how do we also add that extra layer to add them online? So that's what like. That's what makes me tick. So I know that you're probably focused on the first 2.
Yep.
I don't know about, if digital sportsmanship is like a thing in the athletics world, but I think it should be.
I think, excuse me, for me, what I've started to do over the last couple of years is not year-long resolutions, but month-to-month resolutions. So my goals in January are different than my goals in June. And I try to limit them to 3 to 5 that are actually attainable goals. Maybe they're financial, maybe they're, health or mental health or athletic, whatever it may be. I kind of limit those to month resolutions now, month to month. And that's been important for me to kind of build that. And it's been great to see. And it keeps me a little bit more, what's the proper word? Kind of keeps me in line. To
accountability, right?
Accountability, perfect word.
Yeah, right.
To kind of make sure that I'm doing that. So those are kind of the resolutions that I've had is to do it month to month, and that's what's worked for me.
I love it. I love it. Well, we got that visual about it doesn't matter what the sport is.
Yeah.
Right. Like we want you to be that kind of athlete, on and off the ice, the the court, the
It,
field, whatever it might be, the screen for esports, whatever it might be.
what we've done, and I'll touch on, if I can, a little bit of our time when we were up in St. John's, Newfoundland, and not sure if anybody knows about Newfoundland, but it's obviously in Canada, but it's not really Canada. It's its own. It should be its own country, other than its own province. My first time up there, I got stopped at the border in 2017, and I have to spend the night at the border because they don't believe there's a professional basketball team up there. So it's a hockey province through and through. And what I did when I got the head coaching job up there was I just kept using the term on and off, like you're using here. And we didn't want players to represent us just on the court. We needed them to represent us in the community off the court. And whether that be community events, whether that be visiting the Ronald McDonald House or whatever it is, we always use the term, we need the right guys for on and off the court. So I think what you said here is perfect, because you need to hold yourself in that standard, not just in between the lines, but also outside of the arena.
Right. Like no matter where you are, right? Like we want you to be the same, same person on the field, off the field, but also we want those same traits. I want those same traits online. So, here's that. We use the term at the Digital Citizenship Institute about being an impactor. How do you make a positive impact in your own community? And you just kind of spoke to it beautifully. Joining us, because this is like a WMA reunion, right? Which makes us really excited, is both John Buzang and Erica Whipple. So let's put them up on the stage. Hello. Hello.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Stevie.
I love it. So I am so happy because, I was at Wilbraham and Munson from 2003 to 2005. It was a short, right? Only 2 years, but I got to meet all of you and work with you closely. So I know, John, you're coming to us as the director of college counseling right now. You're going to have that lens, but there are other things. You've been a coach at WMA. You've been a college athlete. Like there are a lot. So can you just give us a rundown of who you are and the lens that you're bringing tonight to this conversation?
Oh, sure thing, Mary Allison. First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with the guests, Stevie and Erica. Stevie was my captain in 2011, Steve?
2010.
2010. Wow.
Wasn't a very good player, but.
No, I disagree with that. But, and to your point earlier, I think that, what makes for the complete player, regardless of sport, oftentimes has nothing to do with the sport itself, right? So and that's how you carried yourself to the field, right? With an exuberance and enthusiasm that was evident to not only the coaches, but the fellow players, and you inspired them to how you handled yourself from the first to the seventh inning, in terms of even tempered, being positive, cheering you guys up, being humble. So all of those things, and God bless your parents, because they raised you well, my friend. And
thank you.
I'm sure you'll agree that not only is that something that you bring and have brought to every walk, just as Erica Whipple has done in her hockey playing career and her work in athletic training and teaching and mentoring and advising at Wilbraham Munson. But I think that you can also identify that. You can see that when you were looking at prospects coming into St. Bonaventure, correct? Or you can see that up in Newfoundland. And, so I see it as it relates to baseball. When I was coaching on the college placement side, I would get a call from a college coach. We would have every year 2 or 3 kids go on to play college baseball. And those universal concerns about that complete player would manifest in 3 questions in this order. Tell me about the kid. Tell me about his character. How does this kid behave when no one's watching? The second question would be, tell me about his books, because I coached boys baseball. Tell me about his books. Can he do the work? What's his work ethic in the classroom? If he gets B's, are they hard-earned B's? Whatever that is. And then the third question is always in that order. Tell me about his game. What's his skill set? Because a college coach if you don't have the character that the coach wants to coach and the qualities as a person, as a human being, and if you can't do the academic work, they don't want you because it is a problem and they don't want to coach problems. Doesn't mean you're a bad person or a bad kid. It's just that they have to feed their families by the wins and losses, right? And they have to maintain their sanity, which is always a challenge as a coach, right? At times. So, but to your point, Mary Alice, yes, this is my 24th year at Wilbraham and Munson. I worked in admissions for 6 years, and the past, I can't do the math, but the past 16, 17 years, I've been in college counseling. I coached for 12 years in baseball. I coached for 2 years as an assistant coach in soccer. And so, I think it's important. This is a great opportunity, I think, to really highlight what makes for not only that complete recruitable athlete, if that's where some of the kids are going that are watching, or the parents of some of the kids that are watching, but also as human beings, the skills that are displayed and that make athletes successful are helpful in all areas. So, but thank you for having me.
I love it. And Erica, not only are you the assistant athletic director, you are the head athletic trainer. Did I get that right? And you, Erica, have an unbelievable, history in the world of sports. So I'd love to have you just share, kind of like John just did, all your experiences.
All right. So I started off my life in private school. I grew up at Lawrence Academy, where my dad taught. My mom taught at Groton School. So I got my whole career of working at private schools, working with students through that. So growing up, I met lots of different people, lots of different athletes. Got to work with a lot of different athletes. I went from high school knowing that I wanted to go into something athletically oriented. I played varsity soccer. I played varsity ice hockey. I worked with the softball team. So I had that experience behind me. And I also got to see lots of injuries, got to understand how people had to fight through things and, being tough. And it's not just being mentally tough, it's also being physically tough. Being able to deal with adversity. When things just don't go your way, how do you deal with that? So that was kind of like high school. I went to college. I went to Northeastern University, where I majored in physical education, athletic training, and met a lot of fun people through that. Did a lot of little jobs because Northeastern has co-op. So I was able to work in different private schools. That was what I really wanted to do because that's where I grew up. So I worked at St. Mark's School. I worked at Groton School. I worked at Lawrence Academy. And I got to work with different teams. So growing up, I loved playing ice hockey. My first year in high school was my first year playing. And that's where I got my passion for playing hockey and learning how to be mentally tough, learning how to be, physically tough. So I went on at Northeastern and I did a lot of coaching in that as well. And with the players I had players from being very basic players, just learning how to skate, learning how to play, to kids that I got to work with at Lake Placid. I got to, for 6 summers, I worked at Lake Placid with the junior Olympic team. So I've got to see the whole realm. So, starting off as being a basic skater, being a, basic athlete, learning how to, skate and how, it's not, I get it one day, it'll be great, whatever, to, all right, every day there's a new goal. Every day I have to work with my team to accomplish that goal. So that is one of my important traits when I look at an athlete is, what kind of, do they have mental intensity? Do they have that mental, go get it? And that's also in the classroom as well as on the field, on the court, on the ice. So that was one of my things that I really looked for when I was coaching and learning about different majors, different types of sports, things like that. So that was my kind of my high school, my college. Went from college to figure out really what I wanted to do. And so I did some more coaching. I worked for a private organization for a hockey team, did a lot of coaching there. And as I said, I went to Lake Placid, worked with them, which was awesome because I learned about, how, passionate people can be and how, it's not, an everyday, all right, I'm going to get up, I'm going to, kind of fiddle and diddle, how hard they have to work and putting that mental intensity in and having to, fight for their positions. A couple years that I was at Lake Placid, they were picking for the junior Olympic team and, possibly the Olympic team. So these kids had to fight against each other to make that team. So figuring out, how can I impress the coaches? How can I, show them that I'm really passionate about this? How can I show them that my intensity is there? I really want this. I will go above and beyond. Also at Lake Placid, I got to do some sports psychology stuff. I learned a lot about sports psychology, which was great. Learning about how people visualize and how that can also change their outlook on how they play and how it all works out. So I did that, and then I got my job here at Wilbraham Munson. This is my 27th year. And I started out here.
Can I just say that speaks volumes between, what was it, 23 for John, 27 for you? I mean, that speaks volumes about like the community, right? The school community. When you know that people like are happy and they're content and they feel like that idea of not just me, but we. And so I'm sorry to interrupt, but that I feel like really that speaks volumes about just the community and the people there.
Yeah, and our community is great. And like when I did apply here and I got the job here, very supportive. That's when I started teaching as well. So got to meet, I started with middle school, had Stevie in my class, one of my first classes. And so I started the middle school health program here at the academy, did some phys ed, moved on from there, and I now teach anatomy and physiology. So I've got from the little sixth graders that I started with, lots of energy, lots of, enthusiasm. I want to learn, up to now that I have my anatomy kids. Now they're figuring out, all right, what do I want to do in my life? And so, having to also put that passion into their sport as well as to their learning. Right now I have a bunch of kids that want to go either nursing or physical therapy, things like that. And those are not easy professions to get into. So as I, encourage them is you've got to put that, that work effort into what you do for your sport. Because most of these kids are athletes and they love their sports. I'm like, think about when you're on the soccer field, when you're on the hockey, hockey rink, how much energy you put into that is what you have to put into your academics. If you don't put that into your academics, you're not going to make it in the world. So that's what I look for with my students, with my athletes, is the passion. Being a team player. Can you work with other people? And that's really, really important in, today's society, is being able to work with others and put that passion where you really want to be, as well as can I work with people? Coming here, I have to work with everybody. I can't say, well, you know what, today I really don't want to work with somebody. I have to work with everybody, and everybody has to work with me because we all have to be on the same page when our athletes are, injured or they need advice. So I do a little bit of sports psychology every once in a while with some of our kids, trying to get them to understand, visualization and things like that. So mine is a lot about passion, hard work, mental intensity, being able to work with others. And that's pretty much my deal.
I love it. Well, I'm going to put up this slide because I feel like this part of the conversation, like, new year, new resolutions, new digital habits. So I've got this up. I feel like for any student athlete and also coach, I mean, this isn't just for young people to do. This is like intergenerational. Like while you're watching, and if you're watching this live or you're watching it, at another time, like take some time, go check your privacy settings. Do you know who you're sharing? Like what apps have access to all of your photos? Like When is the last time you changed a password, or are you using the same password for every single account? Little things like, speaking up and standing up when you see something that just isn't right, that's online. We need to be just like we are, as part of a team. We need that type of intensity when you see things that are happening, obviously offline, but online as well. I've got on the other side about cleaning up your social media, and this is where I feel like this will be the bulk of this conversation will be around, what you think, like what's the advice that you give. But this was last month in December. It was Travis Kelce, right? They were all over him, the media, about, I think it was like he said, the squirrel smashed a piece of bread or something, right? Like, it was innocent. It wasn't anything bad, but like, years later, is that what you want to really represent you? It's time to look at your feeds and clean some stuff up. I feel like another one that's really important is, do you know how to validate the sources that you're seeing, like that you're reading online? Are you taking things for face value? If anything, media literacy has to be, a number one skill that everybody needs. And then that last one, I know we were talking about this when we were all back screen before we went live, is that sometimes with athletes, I think that they're thinking, okay, this is like my billboard, right? I'm going to post all the things about how many points I got, or everything that I'm doing. And here's an opportunity, like the idea of being alert. This is our digital citizenship, like, explanation. I'm aware of my online actions, and I know how to be safe and create safe spaces for, myself and for others, right? Well, how about the coach says something really inspirational? Are you posting that? Are you posting stuff about, your teammates? I know, John, you mentioned about, being humble, right? Like, so while this visual is up here, I feel like between Steve, John, and Erica, like, I'd love this to be more of a conversation about what are those things, for that young people, as well as coaches, right, as well as parents in the stands and fans in the stands, what is it on and off, line, on and off a court and online, that you're really passionate about, you wanted to share today? I'll just open that up in a general way, whoever wants to jump in.
Yeah, I could start. Earlier I said, character is revealed oftentimes with how a person behaves when nobody's watching. But there's also a saying, that there's someone always is watching, and now, given the impact that social media has, just in terms of being able to access any posting in perpetuity, so I think that it's important for players to understand. I mean, I see it more directly now. I'm not a head coach anymore, but I see it more directly now in the impact of college admissions people. There's a statistic somewhere between 50 to 75% of college admissions officers have confirmed that they do track social media footprints of their applicants, because it is so competitive at many schools admissions. So they're looking at things seemingly as granular as whether you liked a certain type of post, or if you got a red Solo cup in your hand at a party when you're underage, or whatever that is. I think it's important. And also college coaches, they're doing that too. They want to know, again, the character of the kids that they're going to be coaching. In terms of an example of humility, oftentimes I think ESPN has been awesome. It's been a great platform. I remember pre-ESPN days when you didn't get to see too much, but for all of the benefits of it, I think that there's been downside in terms of the negative impact on humility. So if you're watching Liverpool and a guy scores a goal, the first thing he does is he slides on his knees and it's all about him. Or in the college women's World Series, I can't remember. I think it was a player from Texas just hit a bomb, right? And it's exciting. It is, but gets to home plate, stops, and, is doing this stuff, which I encourage, and we always encourage, I don't remember if I talked about this when you were playing, Steve, but act like Barry Sanders, right?
Yeah.
Barry Sanders was, I think, one of the best hands down football players that ever lived. And when he would score a touchdown, he would hand the ball to the referee. And it looked like he had done it before, and he did many times. But it was just that, showing that sense of humility and not outing or downing the opponent. I think, again, everyone is watching, and now with social media, everyone is watching, and it lives in perpetuity. So let's be mindful of that, right?
And Buzang, to kind of piggyback off what you said, I've got a tweet pulled up right here. In the college basketball space, there's a guy by the name of Adam Nelson. He goes by the name of the Hoop Dirt King. He kind of has all the scoop before the scoop is real. He's letting people know who's getting fired, who's getting jobs. He's got, I don't know, 25,000 followers on Twitter. His pinned tweet. So the first tweet you see when you go to his profile says, "I talked to a Division I head coach yesterday about a few guys he was considering for a director of basketball operations spot in his staff. Had 3 guys in mind. He told me he went on their social medias last night and immediately eliminated one of them. Direct quote, 'Not going to let this kid cost me my job. Like it or not, your tweets matter.'" And I think that just speaks volumes if, you're thinking that you're the best candidate for this job because of where you've been, where you've coached, what you've done. But something as silly as liking a tweet or tweeting out something or retweeting something can cost you an opportunity. And it clearly did, with this kid looking to join a staff.
Right. Yeah.
I have to jump in because after I left WMA, I went to the University of St. Joe's in West Hartford, right? I was faculty member. I was there for 10 years and I was working with undergrad and graduate students. And I remember, like, every year you did a different committee. And one year, the committee that I was on was admissions. And my dean at the time had said, "I want you to make this a teachable moment." So this is like, early, I don't know, 2000 and probably 7, right? Like early on compared to like just how aware the world is. And she wanted me to go and look up everybody's social media. And I thought, oh, first of all, I'm not the police. I'm not these kids' parents. I was like really uncomfortable about this. And she said, "Well, I don't want you to hack into anything, but I want to know. I want to make this a teachable moment." So to go and look up everybody was like time consuming. So this was my hack back in 2007, 2008. I went to the athletics page, the Twitter page. And it was so easy because I saw who was following, right? Who is following our athletics page. And then I found those candidates, right? And then once I clicked on that, which was open, this was when Vine was big, then it would be open to Vine. I saw things that I can't unsee, okay? And usually I'm always trying to focus on not the scare tactics, but like something more proactive. But I will tell you, my dean did make it a teachable moment. And there were students that weren't admitted into the School of Education. There was a student that was actually asked to leave. Like it was it matters. So when you look at like your privacy settings, changing your passwords, kind of being that player that your coach really wants, we need that online as well. It's really, really important. So I only did it for 1 year. And I will tell you, when it was that teachable moment, I remember these were the undergrads, like they couldn't make eye contact with me. They were really uncomfortable because all this was wide open. I didn't hack into anything. I went to the school's athletic page. I saw who was following it, who were the candidates for our, School of Ed. And those things matter, right? Now that's happening with student athletes, but now the world's kind of caught up. This is happening everywhere. Before you're going to date somebody or marry somebody, right? Like people, you're going to get a job. Like people are Googling you. They know what you're up to. They're looking at your feeds. So this is like a life lesson, no matter how young or old you are.
Yeah, I teach a lot of juniors and seniors. And when I do talk to them about, what do you want to do in your future? Where do you want to go to school? What are your passions? That is one thing I do tell them. I'm like, you need to make sure when you think of where you want to go, what you want to do, no matter what, you need to make sure when you post things that they're appropriate. I said, you could lose a college scholarship. You could lose being admitted to a school because of what you've written on your social media page. You just need to be really careful about what you say, who you say it to, how it's put out there as well. I had a student that I was talking to about going to PA school, and he basically was like, I'm going to do this and that, and I'm going to do it. And I was just like, you need to make sure when you talk to people, you don't talk to them, you don't type down to them, you talk to them, try to be, genuine, nice, cordial, but you also want to make sure that how things are said when you're with them and like when you're with your friends, that things are all appropriate. And, because things do get posted on social media, and it might not be something that you knew that was going to be posted, but you need to make sure that you are appropriate on social media and when you're with your friends. So if something does get posted, it's not going to deter a school from wanting you, basically.
Great point.
Well, I know that, like I said, I'm not interested. I really try to avoid, the scare tactics, but there's truth to all of it. And when you think about those traits that we want for sportsmanship, adding that digital aspect, I know that a lot of times, you were trying to just warn them about the fact that it's permanent. And so I like to use the term, I don't know if you're using it or not, but like the digital tattoo. Before it used to be the digital footprint, but it sounds like, a wave can come and then, the footprint disappears. Like, yes, you can get a tattoo removed, but do you know how, like I've heard, I don't have a tattoo, but if you did want to get it removed, it's painful, it's costly, and there's kind of always a remnant. So like, Steve, let's just talk about, like, I don't think social media was big when we knew you in the 6th grade. Like, it wasn't a thing. But could you imagine if those thoughts when you were in the 6th grade were still, I mean, the one thing is, like, go be a kid. Like, you don't have to live your life online. Like, go be a kid. You don't, what it is that you're posting doesn't have to be shared with everybody.
It's true, because I remember I have a vivid memory of creating my Twitter at Wilbraham Munson junior year of high school. I forget what class it was for, but like, I don't know what that was, 2008. So, creating my Twitter in 2008 for a class, just for a class. I think you get 10 extra points to join this social media platform, whatever the class was that I was in. But I have a vivid memory of sitting in the computer lab doing that. But yeah, I mean, if I was tweeting what I was thinking in middle school or doing, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be here right now. That's for sure. Would it be great?
Yeah. So those things, like, we want, I mean, as like grownups, we want young people to have their like lives. We want you to have a full and rich life, but that doesn't mean that it's always like lived online, and so I don't know if those are conversations, John and Erica, that you're having with students, but and how student athletes respond to this, but
yeah, definitely. I think that I'm an assistant coach now in baseball, and the beauty of that is all I get to do and all I have to do is teach, so that's good. And that includes life lessons, and one of the life lessons is again that in the recruiting end of things, and much like in the college admissions end of things, you have a limited number, like the people that are considering you for their fit have just this limited amount of time and limited access to information about you. So in Stevie's example, they would not have had that context, like, to know how good of a person and thoughtful and caring and full of integrity and hardworking he is, if it was that little blip. They wouldn't have looked at your 6th grade, but your 12th and 11th grade tweet. They would have unfairly, but they wouldn't have had a choice.
Right.
Put too much weight on that, and then made inferences about you as a candidate or as a prospective athlete. So we do, Whip, I'm sure you'll agree. We talk to our kids all the time about, know that your decisions, even those that are thoughtless, can really negatively impact you. And you've been working so hard for so long, whether it's a college admissions without athletics or recruiting situation, that you could blow it just in that thoughtless decision you made that got captured by someone else's social media or by a posting or a like that you did that you did take part in. So,
Well, I mean, I talk to students about sportsmanship when you're here on campus as well as when you are at a away game. So having when you're here, you're cheering for your team, you're being supportive, and you're not putting down the other team. So we live stream a lot of our games. So our live streams will go up to the balcony where we have all our fans. Okay. Now, when we do that, we are hoping, and for the most part, everybody is being appropriate. They're being good sports. They're being very supportive of our team, and they're not putting down the other team. But then we also look at when they're away, right? When we're not there. Are they, using what we've taught them here at school about, being supportive, being, appropriate? Are they using that there? And, are they being caught on camera doing things that they shouldn't be doing? Okay, that will come out and, burn them in the future. So, trying to talk to them about that. So when we have issues here on campus and, we have to deal with it, think about how you're representing yourself. Okay, because you're representing yourself as well as the school. So I think that's really, important that, students understand that sportsmanship doesn't just happen on campus. It's got to happen anywhere you go, basically.
and there's some kids that we restrict them. They can't get closer than 50 feet from the microphone of the camera.
Yep.
So that's another way to solve that problem. I'm just kidding.
Listen, I want to know too about that idea that, living your life, having an opportunity not to live it online, and whether those are privacy settings, but also that you get to put your device down. Like you're not always, that idea that if we were all going to go out to dinner tonight and the first person to check their phone has to pay for dinner or whatever, but like that our young people also aren't so connected. So I know that next week for our webinar series, and I wanted to put this up because I wanted to talk to both John and Erica. We have Eric Kuzin joining us from Same Here, and his logo, if you notice, it's American Sign Language, which is Same Here, and he is changing the narrative around mental health. And instead of 1 in 5, it's 5 in 5. And actually, I think it was during the pandemic or right after the pandemic, there was an opportunity for school communities to write a grant that through the NFL and to bring Same Here to your community. And like when I think about living your life and that balance, that's like another part of digital citizenship. So I'd love to hear from John and Erica because Steve hasn't had an opportunity to meet him yet, but I got to attend. I asked if I could join, and I think, John, you got me like the +1 so I could join the school community. But I'd love to hear from you what you thought about his message and like that type of work and that conversation, because next week's webinar is focused on digital wellness and mental health.
He was exceptional, the whole performance. And I forget the NFL player that he brought, but it was the two of them in tandem educated not only the students, but the faculty, the administrators, everyone was invited. Anybody that was associated with Wilbraham and Munson, and what it did for all of us, I think, is it revealed blind spots that we may have. Things that we may say or do or not do that can hurt. And I think that the manner in which we validate others speaks volumes about who we are and who we are as human beings. And I think that was a big message that I took from the presentation, is just being thoughtful and compassionate and considerate, and knowing that the smallest actions, positively or negatively, can have big ramifications.
I feel like I am on Instagram because of Same Here. So I am a big fan of always talking about being, a creator, not just a consumer online. But for Instagram, I feel like, honestly, I am on Instagram for Same Here. He is teaching media literacy, as well as he calls out headlines all the time. But he has really made a significant difference in my life. But I see these ripples in so many people's lives, just because of the conversation around mental health. And what you just kind of touched upon, John, was the fact that this wasn't just for the student body, it was for the whole school community, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of strengthens where we're normalizing this conversation instead of talking about like labels, whether it's going to be depression or anxiety or schizophrenia, whatever it might be. Those are just symptoms. Like, let's get to the core of some unresolved trauma and the fact that like you have had a challenge in your life. Guess what? Same here. I have too. And to see that humanness, right? Because that's, for me, to use tech for good, we want to be able to see the human sitting next to us. Because if you can't see the human sitting next to you, you're never able to apply it to people around the world that might look different, speak different languages. And if you can't do that, then you can't see the human across the screen.
Right.
And so I really loved that school program that he brought to Wilbraham. And I'm so glad that I got to see it in action. And then what Steve doesn't know is that Eric was front office NBA. I know he'll share it next week. And one day he just couldn't get out of bed. And then one day turned into 2 years and I don't know, 60 different medicines and shock therapy. And he has really dedicated his life to Same Here. And he's leveraged every sport contact to tell their Same Here story. So young people, like their role models, they see their challenges like, hey, that's the same challenge that I have. And I think that's really powerful. So next week, that focus will really be, because, first it's about being alert, but adding that layer about being balanced and not always being on your device.
Yeah.
So, and that isn't just for our young people. How about all of us? Aren't we guilty for?
Sure.
I get my screen time notifications Sundays at 9:15 a.m. and I'm disgusted some of the times, especially after a long weekend of not doing anything. Like, was I really on my phone for 11 hours yesterday? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. And so like, just like we had these actionable items like that you can do, right? While you're mindlessly scrolling, don't mindlessly scroll. Like take one of these actionable items, that call to action, and make a positive difference. We'll have items like this about being balanced for next week. I know that like one in particular is, and I'm just going to ask all of you, do you sleep with your device as your alarm clock?
I do.
I don't. This is probably bad to say, but I can't tell you the last time I've set an alarm. I've naturally now in my mid 30s waking up at like 6:30 every morning. So I don't. When I need to set an alarm, it is my phone is my alarm.
Okay, because I always want to say, and I say this to adults all the time when we work with schools, like I want you to go back and get that old-fashioned alarm clock.
Right,
And because when you say good night, I want you to say good night to a human, another human, or a furry companion, one of you, a cat, a dog, But I'd like you to say good night and good morning to, not to your device. And how many of us, just because the device is by our bedstand for for an alarm clock, that's our first hello and our first good night. Like those are just like some simple things to change. And it's not easy. It's not easy no matter what age we are, to really put that focus on balance. So I'm really happy that Eric, and I hope that whether you joined us live tonight, you watch this later, that you'll join. It will be the same at 7 p.m. John, I'm really glad. I know Erica, we are seeing Erica back like literally at work, by the way.
Back-to-back hoops practices. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Erica, anything you want to add about Same Here when they came?
I just thought it was really cool to like listen to about mental health, about positivity, about understanding that there is anxiety out there. When you do play sports, there are different types of anxiety that you deal with. Being an athletic trainer, I deal with students all the time that may need a little extra support. The big game's coming up. Oh my God, I'm stressing out. So sports is great for your mental health. It gives you positive positive affirmations, things like that. But it can also, be stressful. And it's important that people learn about it and understand that we're all in this together.
I love it. I love it. Well, I want you to know, last April, we put on a global student showcase and we went live every single day to a different classroom around the world. We had sessions in English, Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic. It was like incredible. And we really encouraged, if English wasn't your first language, to present in your language. And the classrooms were saying, but you won't understand what we're saying. And well, it's not about us, right? Like we want to model how school communities are using tech for good. Well, it was so successful. We had no idea how much people, like classrooms, school communities, they're hungry for this, right? Like, what does this look like? And I'm now inspired. There was a classroom in upstate New York, and they were so inspired by what happened to Damar Hamlin, right? He died twice on the field.
Yeah.
And he partnered with the Heart Association, and these high school students wanted to make sure, like, what could they do for their community? And so they learned CPR, and they went to their athletic department, and they wanted to make sure that the coaches knew, but not just the coaches, but the student athletes. And it just, it had nothing to do with technology, right? Like, this is about being human. But the fact that they came on, they broke down their like school walls, and they connected, and they shared, like, here was a problem, here was something that we were really passionate about that we wanted to solve. And so this is what we did. And just by breaking down those classroom walls and sharing what they did, they're inspiring and empowering other young people and school communities, like, to want to solve problems in their communities. So this April, we are doing it again. And so if you've joined us tonight, you're going to join us next week or again on the 25th. Like, what you're doing, we want to showcase. We really want to highlight. In fact, just for WMA, I really hope, John and Erica, like, you are going to have, it doesn't have to just be your student athletes, right? But you can identify some students and some classrooms that would want to break down their classroom walls and share like a passion. That's a LinkedIn, Linktree QR code. One of the first links that it will bring you to is our call for presenters. But I wanted to share that because this is just a great opportunity with the right people, right? To really get this word out, because this is about a celebration. And I see we've got a comment here. Michael Drezek has been joining. It was his actual it was his school community, Lakeshore Central, about Damar Hamlin. But I like his quote there.
That's cool.
Yeah. You've been there 1,000 times before. Michael Drezek, thanks for joining us live. But that really, I wanted to know some parting like words from each of you, with a big thank you for kicking off this conversation for this month. So, Erica, you want to closing like remarks to inspire us, to make us want to make a difference?
I think it's important to be a community. I've been here, as I said, 27 years, and I think of people here as being my family. I learn every single day from somebody about something new. I learn about, trust. I learn about, companionship. I learn about just being a community. And I think that's really important with today's society, is learning how to work together, being a community, being able to use digital media in our lives, but also being able to, work as with each other and not just have to use social media all the time.
I love it. How about you, John? We'll finish up with Steve.
Sure. I think the investment in time and actions, right? So I would just ask the audience to think about what is the return on that investment of time and that investment of an action, big or small. Is it going to add to or detract from the sense of community, the well-being of others, your college profile or your playing profile, your recruitability? I I would assert that investing in TikTok or posting social media may not have as big a return in making somebody feel good, unless it's all good, or in developing as an individual in whatever capacity in the community. So, what's the return on the investment?
I love that.
I think for me, it's it costs $0 to be a good person, and it's sometimes the harder thing to do, to take the high road and to be the bigger person and to be just a good person in general, and whatever your terms of good may be, that's up to you. But I've always just said, hey, like, if you can make one person's day better every day, then you're doing something right. It's kind of like in sports. If you can get 1% better every day, and whatever that may be, you're going to be a great player or whatever sport that may be. But if you can just be a good person every day, and it's hard, but it's doable. And I think that's something I try to live my life with every day is, just trying to make, if you can make one person's day a little bit better, whether it's, saying, asking them how they are before the phone call starts or wishing them well when the phone call ends. But just being a good person, it costs $0 to do. And it's really not that hard.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to that and say, like, the idea that when you know better, you do better, right? Like that kind of,
Yeah.
and that I might not have gotten it right, yesterday or the day before yesterday, but tomorrow, I'm going to try better. I'm going to know better, and I'm going to be more aware. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, go, John. Did I
Oh,
interrupt?
no, Steve, I'm good.
No,
Yeah,
I was
I
just saying,
like it.
thank you, Dr. Craig. Awesome.
Okay, well, I just know that I'm so grateful for your time. I'm proud that I wish it was more than the 2 years, but I'm proud that I was part of the community, that we're all like, we connected all those years ago, and to come back and like share our journeys again. I'm really grateful. And for everybody, that joined us live, thank you. Thank you for wanting to be a part of this conversation. We're looking forward to seeing you on the 11th and the 25th. The 11th will be again with Eric Kuzin from Same Here around digital wellness and mental health. And on the 25th, we are going to really focus on community service and making an impact in your community, like what teams can do. And then I don't know, I'm kind of making a prediction here that this is because I heard from a lot of schools today, like, could they get involved? So what I'm thinking, Steve, I haven't even pitched this to you, but
Yeah.
maybe this is like a once a month thing where we get to spotlight school communities, right? But specifically teams and athletes that are doing some incredible stuff. And,
Cool.
Maybe this is something that, we kick off in January, but becomes something that is a conversation that we continue. And I can't thank the three of you enough for being part of it. So I have a very grateful heart.
Thank you so much.
We
Thank
miss
you.
both of you. We miss both of you here still. So
Oh
thank
yeah.
you.
We might have to make an in-person reunion soon.
I like it.
All right.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take care.